All right, let's talk about another monstrous talent named Kevin Durant. He's probably on the backside of his career now. His team did not do well, but his numbers were just off the charts last year as a jump shooter. What's your gut feeling on how much he has left and where that should play out?
What year what year will he be going into? Is it 18 or 19 for him or 17? What do we know?
17, I believe.
17 years.
Yeah.
I was literally having this conversation with someone yesterday. I think his game is meant for aging from a standpoint. I don't think, although he was athletic at one point, he didn't
Yeah.
depend on that. That wasn't the source of his scoring. His
True.
skill set was the source of his
Yeah.
scoring, his ability to shoot the ball. And he only continues to get better at shooting the long ball, finding that mid range, still the ability to get downhill and dunk on you if you know
Sure.
if you're asleep. So I'm a huge fan of Kevin. I think he still has another good 2 or 3 years, possibly four in the tank. I think that Phoenix job was a that Phoenix team was a train wreck. I think that
It
Bradley Beal move was a horrible move.
was horrible.
And I'm a fan of Bradley Beal. I think in with the Wizards, I think he was one of the better two guards in the league. But I think bringing three guys that pretty much had the same skill set to one team and just thinking that was going to work was
Yeah.
bad management and bad ownership. So I am happy he's getting out of there. Where I think he best fits. Would I love to see him go to the Knicks? I think that would be great. But I think he best fits, in my opinion, in that Houston team. And I think that Houston team has young assets and picks to be able to swap out. And because I think what they lacked in these playoffs was obviously they've taken on the personality of Ime Udoka, who's one of the better coaches
Oh,
in
is
this
he?
league with his
Oof.
mentality and his principles and the way he has those young kids playing. But they needed that consistent score that's going to give you 24 to 26 every single night. And Kevin Durant has been that since the day one he's stepping in this league. And although he's going into year 17, I still think he can be that for that particular team. So I would love to see him make a move. I think it's going to happen. I think the Knicks are a beautiful destination. I think San Antonio could be really interesting too. You pair him
I do
up with
too.
De'Aaron Fox and Wemby. So I'm definitely looking forward to see where he lands. I just saw him maybe about 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago at the Sparks game, and we chopped it up a little bit. But
Oh
always
yeah.
been a huge fan of him, his ability, but also not just his ability to play the game, but his troll ability too. I like that because
Hmm.
I think we live in such a society now where I've kind of caught the tail end of social media in my career that athletes are always supposed to turn the cheek or be the bigger guy or do this and do that. And obviously he got caught with his burner and he's thrown the burner away, but he just talks shit to people back. And I think that
Yes.
I personally love it. And I
Uh,
think the people that receive it love it too, although they may continue to talk trash. They're like, I got Kevin Durant to respond to me. And I think that it again, mental health is huge, and I think that's the way he kind of deals with his mental health. Is hey,
he
I'm
does.
gonna go have some fun on social media and fire back and talk some trash, because I think he's super creative. He got our guy Stephen A. the other day. He
He
posted
did.
Stephen A. playing playing solitaire during the
Solitaire.
finals.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love KD on and off the court. I think he's a very misunderstood person, but arguably one of the greatest, most efficient scorers we've ever seen in this game. And I still think he has some good years under his belt.
This is just my 2 cents from a distance. I just don't know if at this stage and age he wants to be viewed as somebody's savior. Where he
Mm,
would come in like New York. If he goes to the Knicks, it'll be like, okay, this is it, Kevin. You got to take us over the top. You got to take us to the promised land. I don't know that he wants that, which is why you mentioned the Spurs. I think that's the sweetest landing spot for him because there wouldn't be instant savior expectation and pressure on him, but he could mentor Wimby a little bit, and they'd be very good. The West is just so stacked and
loaded.
loaded. I don't
Hmm.
know that they'd immediately be a contender. Feel free to disagree, but if you put
No,
him and
I agree.
De'Aaron and Wimby on the floor together, and Stephon Castle just won Rookie of the Year, I mean they
Super
would have some
talented.
firepower,
Yeah.
man. But
Yeah.
but I,
I'm interested to see, to be honest with you, because I don't know if he doesn't want that. I think that he took so much heat for the Steph and Warrior move. But at the same time, I was on one of those teams. Skip, he was fucking unbelievable during those runs, winning those finals MVPs, and his ability just, man, he was incredible. He took a lot of heat, which I think was, if you want to give him the heat, I think if you give him the heat, you got to give LeBron the heat for running to Miami. So I don't give either of them heat. I just think that we live in an era now where stars are moving. But I do think that Kevin's. I just think he's one of those guys that leads by example, and I think because he's always been an alpha as far as his skill set and his ability to score the ball, that they want more from him vocally, or you want him to do. He just leads in a different way, and I've got a chance to play with different types of leader superstars. You know what I mean? And some guys lead in different ways, and I just think he leads by example. So to go to New York and he would have, I think he would be good with that because he is someone who actually thought about going to the Knicks. Chose Brooklyn. That was a train wreck with the pieces they missed, but I still think he has that fire in him no matter where he goes, that, he's going to put his best foot forward and be that efficient, lethal scorer we've seen for the past 16 years.
Well, to your point, and nobody knows this better than you do because you saw him and practiced against him on a daily basis, but that shot of his, they talk about Kareem's skyhooks, the most unstoppable shot. But listen, this guy, I don't care what the stats say about 6'11", he's 7 feet tall and he's like 7'6" long. And he shoots it way back over his
Way
head.
back.
Yeah, and like there's no way you can even bother it. You can't
No.
at 6'8", if you're guarding him, I don't know what you can get
Yeah,
physical
there's
with
none.
him,
That's
but
what you had to do. You
yeah.
had to get in his feet. You had to get into his
Yeah.
body because once he rises up, there's absolutely nothing you can do
Because
with
what are you
his
going to
height,
do?
his
Yeah,
skills. You can't do nothing.
you can't get your fingertips near it.
No.
But
You could
because
try that
God,
old Shane Battier style. Shane Battier used to try to put his hands in
he
front of
put his
people, but
hand in
I
his
don't even think
face. Yeah.
that. I don't even
Okay.
think that would work with KD. I just think he's so far above and has mastered what he done. And that was the one thing funny you said that about getting a chance to play with him. That one year that I played with him and Steph, Skip, it was so special. That team first and foremost, but just to see him and Steph used to work, and Steve Nash was like a special assistant. So Steve Nash would
Yeah.
pop up on our team a few times a month and work with these guys. But when I tell you, you saw a 7 foot version of Steph, and Steph was a smaller version of him. They were working out on the court doing off one foot balance,
Yeah.
wrong foot
Yeah.
spins. I mean, the way they worked relentlessly every single day without missing was incredible. And you see why they are who they are when you get a chance to kind of go behind the curtains and you get to see them off the court, when you get to see them in
Yeah.
practice, or you get to see them working out, just the kind of effort they put in every single rep, every single shot is the most important shot. And I really just sat back after practice. I would always get my shots after because all the courts were fun. When I tell you, Clay was so Steph and KD were on one end, Clay was on the other end, Iggy had a court, Draymond had a court, the young kids had a court, and then like D West and Sean Livingston had a court. So I would always, just because I got there late, I would kind of have to wait to get my shots up. So I would always wait,
Yeah.
but it would be such a delight to watch Steph and KD work out on one side, and you'll see Clay shoot 100 shots and maybe miss 2 shots. It was just so special those days in Golden State, just to kind of seeing what those big three were doing on a day in, day out basis.
KD works at his craft, and I think he works as
Oh yeah.
hard as anybody has ever worked at that thing, at that skill set
Yep.
that he has to improve it and
Hmm.
maximize it. Man, and he
Yeah.
loves the work. A lot of guys just
Yes.
don't love the work, but he loves the
Yes.
craftsmanship of it. So
And the
you
student of the
saw
game,
some,
watching old
yeah,
film, yeah, watching old
yeah,
film, watching old games, watching old players. Like he's like a basketball nerd. Like he
he
is
is, yeah.
fully entrenched in all aspects of the game. That's why I'm such a big fan of his body of work and who he is.
All right, let's flip it around and talk about the player that he chose to leave in Oklahoma City when he came to the Warriors for that year, and that's Russell Westbrook. And it surprised me a little bit because Russ declined his option the other day in Denver, and I don't know if that means he's just trying to get them to re-sign him for more money, but he's going to hit the open market. And if he goes to another team, that would be 7 teams in 8 years that he has played for. And I'm pretty sure he's a slam dunk first ballot Hall of Famer, but I don't remember any Hall of Famer who finished his career
Yeah.
going, with
Hmm.
kind of the route you took where you're playing on a bunch of
Hmm.
teams. That's
Hmm.
7 and 8 for Russell Westbrook. What does that say to you?
I don't know what it says. I don't know Russ, although we went to the same college. I never really got a chance to know Russ, to
Yeah,
be honest with you. So everything I say about him is kind of just what I've seen or what I've heard. And I don't have anything bad to say. I think he is one of the most competitive,
he is. Yeah.
fierce,
Hmm.
athletic point guards we've ever seen in this game. At the same time, very hard headed. And I think he'll probably admit that. It'll be interesting because I think this league is about fit. And I think in certain situations, whether it was him, whether it was a system, whether it was the guys around him, that during this journey where he's been going from team to team, it hasn't been necessarily a great fit. I thought that Denver was a really good fit for him, especially at this stage and age in
Agreed.
his
Oh,
career. So
yeah.
I'm really interested to see what happens to him. I do agree with you. I think he's a first ballot Hall of Famer. I think in his prime he was something to be reckoned with. You think of guys like him and Derrick Rose and Baron Davis. I mean, just the explosiveness from the point guard position, we don't necessarily see, or we haven't necessarily seen guys of that nature. So, huge fan of Russ. I think he's put the work in, and I want him to go out the way he wants to go out. But it's going to be interesting to see what that is. I didn't even know he declined his option. I thought he was going
Yeah.
back to Denver. So, whether he goes back to Denver or not, I heard some weird. I don't even know if it was internet myth, but I heard some
Yeah.
team overseas offered him a boatload of money. So I don't know how much
Yeah.
truth there is to that, but it'll be interesting. Again, he's someone who is um, put the work in. Someone from the outside looking in that every time he steps on the court, he's giving you maximum effort. And I think it really throughout his career, you've got to kind of take the bad with the good because I think normally when he was younger and doing his thing, the good outweighed the bad. Now it's a little bit closer because
Yeah.
I think he still kind of has a similar mindset that he is still in his 20s and he's probably in his mid to late 30s. So, I wish him nothing but the best. I hope he lands in a spot where he's able to play the type of basketball that is going to, make him happy, but also help the team win.
Look, I've talked to so many ex players who just love Russ. And I get why you would love him because I'm not sure any player has played consistently harder than he's played every dribble of his career. I mean, like every single dribble, like you said, it's
Yep.
fierce. It's almost
Hmm.
angry, but it's just ferocious basketball where he is full tilt every
Hmm.
single night, every dribble. The problem is, this is just me as a basketball purist from afar. It just hurts my eyes because he plays so out of control on offense where he attacks and it's bull in China shop where it's just and the ball's flying out of bounds. And
Yeah.
remember, he has led the league in turnovers 4 times and he's finished second in turnovers 4 more times. That's a lot of turnovers. And he's always been a bottom of the barrel 3-point shooter who will still take those 3-point shots because he's
Yeah.
fearless and
Hmm.
he has no memory. Like he can just blank his memory out where he
Hmm.
doesn't hang on to it at all. Like what slump? I'm not in a slump. I'll make
Yeah.
the next one. And he just might make the next one, but he's a 30% career 3-point shooter,
Yeah.
which so many, it's way down at the bottom. So when you're high turnovers, low 3-point percentage, and you're shooting an average number of 3-point shots, it's hard on
Hmm.
your basketball team. It's hard on the
Yeah.
efficiency of your team. And
Yeah. I
and
think
that,
the same
yeah,
thing
go
that's
ahead.
no, I just think that the
Yeah,
same thing that's made Russ great, that memory, the ability to next play
yeah,
mentality, to play as hard as you can. I think outside obviously the turnovers and the low shooting percentage, what's made him great has also hurt him at this point because
it
he
has.
plays the exact same way. And I think,
Yeah,
again, on the outside looking, I think there's a little hard headedness because he's put the work in and he has a ton of accolades. And although he's led the league in turnovers, he's also was the first one since Oscar to average a triple
He,
double, and
he
he's done that for a
was, and
few
I didn't
seasons.
think we'd
He
ever see
won.
that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, he won the MVP. So obviously there's a method to his madness, but I do think there's a lot of madness. And one thing I will say about Russ, and again, this is not a knock, I just think when guys get older, their games get a little bit more defined. But I still think Russ still plays the same ways. Again, a bull in a china shop, and now is very successful for about 12 years, 13, 14 years. I'm not sure
was.
what year this is for him
Yeah,
now, but
he's up there in
to think of
16. Yeah,
to think what he's to think of his resume and how potent he was at Oklahoma City and even in Washington. He
he
was a
was.
monster in Washington, and then to kind of see him go from team to team to team to team to team to team, now knowing everything he's accomplished. I don't like to see that because I am such a big fan of him, and I know how good he was. I got a chance to play against him for a long time, so
Yeah,
it'll be really interesting to see how his he ends up these last year or two or 3 years he has in his career, and where he lands,
yeah.
and the ability to blend in with that team and be effective.
Did you ever guard him, or were you mostly forward to
Uh,
forward?
I got switched on him a few times, and he was a problem, especially when he's hitting that mid range too. When
Yeah.
he's knocking down his jump shots, and there's been plenty of times where he's been on a good groove. He was impossible to guard because he can get downhill and dunk. He can
Oh,
pull up for
can
the
he?
three.
Oof.
He had the mid range that was off the glass, the mid range pull up. I mean, he used to give us
It,
fits.
it
I
was
remember
it
with
was
the
pretty good. That
Lakers.
was his best shot. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I remember with the Lakers and with the Clippers. I mean, Russ and those teams around him. Because too, what made him so dangerous is there was James and there was Kevin out there with him, and he was still. And then there was Serge, and then there was Big Perk, and then there was Cephalosha on defense. They had some really
Yeah.
good
No, they did. No, it was a
teams
good
out there,
team. Yeah.
and he was a really good and an important part of that.
Hey, no one has ever angry slammed it better than just to punish you. If he beats you off the dribble, he is just going to punish
Hmm.
you by tearing the
Hmm.
rim down. Right?
Agreed.
Yeah.